The age verification systems just got hacked. How did I know this was going to become a problem? Like, I have a
Big
feeling
day,
before it
ladies and
gets
gentlemen.
started.
It seems like the EU's age verification app just got hacked, and
All right, before we get into it, I'm going to bet that after it got hacked, it made child safety less safe. There was a whole plan behind it. And now it's going to expose a lot of information about these children that they were trying to protect.
apparently less than 2 gosh darn minutes. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
Wow.
I could laugh all day, every day, but
It got hacked in 2 minutes. That's impressive.
state surveillance is one of those things that I think is not a laughing matter. We're reaching a world where these governments constantly say,
Overreach.
listen, gotta protect those kids. Maybe you should get rid of that,
I knew it was the kids, like, well, obviously age verification, but I knew that it was going to be about protecting the kids.
that end-to-end encryption crap that people keep talking about, just so we can scan your messages. While the same government leaders, military guys, elite people, the people that run our world, effectively get to use this technology, and the rest of us plebeians, we're just sort of sitting here with our dicks in our hands, with like completely
Peasants.
insecure communications. When it comes
Right,
to the
right.
internet, look, there's a lot of places on the internet I would not let my kid near. Okay, but you see, I can do that. I can be a parent and I can tell.
Thank you. I can be a parent, he says. This is where the government should let parents be parents. And then the ones that aren't being parents, they should be handled. But to punish everybody for what a few bad parents do is crazy. That's like removing the Second Amendment because you got some idiots. And, I ain't even going to get stuck on that one because those idiots could have probably been taken care of long before the problem existed, had there not been situations where you're not allowed to take care of it yourself. You got to, go through certain avenues of the law.
My kid, listen, that's a no-no place on the internet. I can go into their phone, I can put in parental controls, I can go to my router and put in parental blocks. I can do a lot of things to make that friction way, way harder than what the government can do.
Exactly. For instance, the kid that I'm raising is not allowed to have YouTube. Why? Well, you're probably thinking, well, you're on YouTube. I'm an adult. I don't want my kid having YouTube for several reasons, but the first started back whenever it was she was on YouTube Kids, and there was this video going around of how this kid was on YouTube, and the video told her to go do something bad to her parents. Not gonna happen in my house. No YouTube, and we already had a prior YouTube incident with the previous kid, so yeah, it's easy for me to go, yeah, your kid, no YouTube.
I can also just be a parent and talk to my kid. So the reality of
Exactly.
this situation is, obviously, I think the parent should be the one that is responsible for what happens on the internet, and we shouldn't be destroying the safety, security, and privacy of the internet that
Of
it
everybody
provides,
else.
the last bastion of freedom, because this is the world we live in. Look, times
Exactly.
be changing very rapidly. By the time GTA 6 drops in 2027,
Oh, all the GTA 6 memes. We got this before GTA 6. That shit cracks me up.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the internet's gonna be a very, very different fucking place. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Right.
what happened? So this is the EU Digital Identity Wallet. This is a open source release. This is a demo at the moment. And it's demo because they say that it's a demo up over here. It's a demo version that you can test right now. It's the age verification solution for every single European out there. And based on this,
Oh, this is
remember, it's
European.
also not ready for production deployment. It's not ready to be out there in the wild. Now, it's a bit confusing reading this because ultimately speaking, some of the EU politicians have kind of said that as of 15th April 2026, that age verification solution is technically ready. And we're about
Obviously not.
to look at a hack that took place that apparently
Says
can be done
otherwise.
in 2 minutes. So the age verification solution has the highest standards of privacy available. And of course, it's fully open source, meaning that, everybody can look through it. And I think look, for any state surveillance solution, as much as I disagree with it, what the EU is providing here is kind of probably the best of a really bad situation. Look,
Gives them a chance to troubleshoot. Like, oh, you can hack it. Let's figure out how you hacked it. I get it.
to me, when I look at shit like this, it's like, what do you want to get rather, stabbed or shot? I mean, obviously both of these options suck. One is maybe marginally better than the other, but I would love to live in a world where I'm not getting stabbed or fucking shot.
Right.
So let's get through the actual clickbait and see what happened over here, okay? So I've seen a lot of people say this is a huge hack. Now, this comes from a guy called Paul Moore, who's from the UK. He's a security consultant, and he showcased how this hack actually happened. So on your actual smartphone device, you can see that he's got the age verification app, and he's got Total Commander. Now, to do this hack, you need to be able to have physical device access to the actual, product, right? So you need to be able to physically have the phone, and you also have to have the phone totally fucking rooted, meaning that a lot of those sandboxing rules that exist for Android.
Mind you, if the phone is rooted, you'll be able to get around any of this age verification stuff anyway.
Or really, a lot of those protections kind of get withered away. Having a rooted phone is not something I consider to be a sin, but if you do a lot of banking or actual sensitive stuff, some applications don't let you operate them if your phone is actually fucking rooted, meaning that you're going beyond the permission levels that were set by the company that sold you the product. So let's look at exactly how this works. Basically, he opens the actual application, as you can see over here, and then he goes through the onboarding process. He puts in a PIN, which is 000001, enters that PIN right over here, and then of course you can see that the application works in a way where it can grab your electronic ID, your passports, and then you can also use a token to access, like an on-site identity check, which I'll show you actually in a minute. Now, I'm not installing this on my device because I do not install state surveillance on my system. So again, through the development portal, he's got this sort of demo like age verification, sort of built in, this token that he's fed in. So as it gets implemented into his phone, you can see that right here, he's got in his device, in the test device, the actual digital credentials like issuer token. So one thing that I noticed over here is that he's got the sort of 30 left on the right. I don't know if that's specifically days. I just don't think that,
I bet that's 30 access points or something, like access to this or access to that.
Once an age is verified, it typically should lose access. Like, I don't know, age doesn't go down, but anyways, that's a whole kind of separate story. Basically, what he does now is that in order to break the application, he basically closes it out completely, opens up an application called Total Commander, and over here he's got these three strings. Now, again, he's basically going to delete two of these strings, and because he deletes two of these strings from the actual XML file, remember, this is accessible because he has physical device.
And then he can post that XML file back in there while he removes the other one, and it's going to operate, or it thinks it's operating the way it's supposed to.
And he's fucking rooted into the device. He goes back in, goes through the onboarding process, enters in a different PIN number, so you can see 11112, and as he's done this, you can see that that token option has frankly just disappeared. So what he does now is, in order to show you how this works, he closes the application, opens it up again, enters in the false PIN, and gets access to the age verification like documents, right? Or at least the token that can be used. Now, this is not that crazy. Like, I saw this on the headlines, and I was like, okay, I have to see how bad.
By the way, this video isn't anything like I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like hackers got in and stole information. Or maybe we're not there yet, but hackers got the information of the kids they were trying to protect. But this looks like a hacker is hacking the app so they can bypass it, from what I'm gathering.
And the reality is, I'm just going to straight up say it, I don't think it's super duper crazy in that regard. However, the next hack he kind of shows is actually kind of a little bit, it's more concerning in my opinion. So he says that bypassing using their own infrastructure, he ports the Android app to a Chrome extension, stripping out the pesky step of handing over biometric data, which they can leak, and pass verification instantly. So step 1, install the extension, register an identity once, continue using the web as normal. So again, the problem with some of these things is that, when you have this browser extension that detects these verification QR codes in these service flows and returns these forged attestations, it shows that breaking the application, or at least the logic of it, is actually quite trivial in this situation. Now look,
Right.
I'm not here to sit down and fucking shit down the throat of politicians.
No, but let's call a spade and let's call it out for what it is and not beat around the bush about this shit.
I don't think it's really the politicians. I don't think that this whole situation is as insane as some of the media has made it out to be. But obviously, there have been people who, like Pavel Durov, the guy behind Telegram, for instance, who said that, listen, maybe this is some sort of conspiracy in a sense that you present this privacy respecting option, but an incredibly hackable application. The application gets hacked, which is where we currently are talking about it, and then they remove the privacy to fix the actual application. And then the surveillance tool is sold as privacy respecting. So again, Look, the end of the day, the actual person behind Telegram says that the app verification was hackable by design, since it instantly just trusted the device. So look.
Exactly.
Obviously, there's no perfect rule to this. There's no perfect solution to any of this. But I, on my channel, like to at least pride myself a little bit on giving you the 100% actual facts as they are. No clickbait, no none of that nonsense. Yes, this application technically has been hacked. And its hack is interesting to look at. But I don't want you to think that just because it's hacked that these people are able to get your passports or your electronic IDs just right off of it.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, if somebody's going to get access to your cell phone device and then root it, they probably have access to your wallet, which contains your driver's license, or they probably can beat the living shit out of you and get access to your passport. Look.
Don't know where this guy's from, but here in America, we have this thing called the Constitution, and we use it to the fullest extent.
To get physical device access is definitely one thing. If this was maybe like, hey, we're capturing people's tokens out of the sky as these, like if somebody was like, using their application to submit a request, and maybe on that request somebody had grabbed your information, that would be a really nuclear bad deal. But the thing about it is obviously this is an open source demo, and that's what open source demos are supposed to do. They're supposed to have people pick these things apart, see where the problems are, so that eventually they will actually be patched, which as of yesterday, this was in fact fucking patched. So yeah, something bad happened, and that bad thing got really patched up really fucking quickly. But the reality of it is, just because it's open source doesn't mean that I think people should fucking contribute to the state surveillance application. I still think ultimately, at the end of the day, the direction we're going with the internet is a bad direction. Especially if the internet is going to require us to go through all of these steps to access information as we once freely did. Look, I told you guys this before, right? And I've said this for years. I've talked about this since the creepypasta days, the deep web days.
Creepypasta?
Virus investigating.
What's so creepy about pasta? Don't you just like cook pasta, throw in some sauce, some protein, some vegetables, and you eat it? What's so creepy about that?
Yada, yada, yada. Every time we look at shit like this, we're reaching a world of George Orwellian's 1980. Like, we're reaching a George Orwell 1984 world where, again, just to basically access free information on the internet, we're going to have to be fucking monitored. We're entering that contract where we're being monitored. I don't think this is all out of the coincidence. I really do genuinely believe that there is some real money and power at play. And we've seen it literally weeks ago where companies like Facebook were kind of fingered at by internet investigators as a primary company that was, funding a lot of these age verification bills. A few days ago, we looked at age verification federally being talked about in the United States when it came to operating systems. I don't think that it's unreasonable to somewhat believe that there is a almost global conspiracy happening right now where some of the largest countries, some of the largest regions in the world are just magically coming together to deal with this protecting minors online bullshit. Because if it was protecting minors online, we would just ask our parents, or we would put actual legal blame on those parents instead. I still think that's a logical option to have, you know? I don't leave a loaded firearm sitting around my house and then blame the fucking gun company because my child decided to grab and set it off. No, I would actually blame myself for improperly storing the gun and also putting my own child in danger. Just in the same way that I don't buy my kid a smartphone, give them unfettered access, and then bitch and complain to my fucking representative and say, how the hell could I prevent little Timmy from looking at online internet stuff? This is such an insane...
Let's hold the parents accountable. I agree 100%. But there's only so much you can do as a parent. Kids are going to be sneaky. Kids are going to do stuff they're not supposed to do. So, you know, if your kid sneaks out and goes down the road and steals a car, you know, there's only so much you can hold the parents accountable for, because you didn't tell your kid to go out and steal that car and do a joyride. But, you know, to a certain extent, if it happens over and over and over again and the parents just letting it happen, that's where there could be an issue. But, man, there's...
story. And every time I look at it, every time it develops, it baffles my mind how far we've gotten in humanity, and we're still letting this kind of shit happen. So ultimately, look, at the end of the day, the EU option sounds like it is palatably the best, right? You leave all of the attestation to your device, scan your passport, driver's license into your device, have it only stored here, and then generally speaking, you go to a website on the internet, you look at a QR code, you scan it as if you were doing like an authenticator on
every
your phone,
time, though.
and then your phone...
Why can't you just... never mind.
Will basically send a yes or no signal,
ideas.
And the website should unlock. And that sounds like a reasonably good way to go forward. When I see hacks like this, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the plan here is, listen, we're going to implement an application, people are going to break this application, and then the governments will realize...
This is the start to the mark of the beast. I'm just being honest. This is... start to the mark of the beast. They're going to track everything you do.
Listen, we have to make them technically more stricter. It's like age verification already. You know, as soon as it was introduced in Australia, in the United Kingdom, what did people fucking do? They immediately started using VPNs to bypass it. And then what is the talk now? Hey, maybe we should start putting blocks on these VPNs, or at least put age restrictions there. So it just becomes an ever-escalating war of making this shit way more awful than it actually is, and needs to be. Look, the reality is, kids are going to be kids, and the internet is going to be the internet. So ultimately, the only change here that should happen is more of a talk about how you're going to end up parenting your kid in the day and age of the internet. I grew up with the internet, okay? Like, I am of the age where the internet was introduced as I was a little fucking, you know, kid. And I grew up alongside seeing this internet, you know, become something from people on dial-up, you know, sharing small little fucking like text files with each other, all the way to the age and era where we're sharing 4K footage. We're constantly on our devices getting like high resolution shit thrown at us. You know, in a world where I think there's far more pressing things than mass surveillance, in a world where, you know, a lot of these politicians are constantly pushing for shit like war, where again, people are concerned where, you know, are we even going to have jobs in the fucking future? Because again, we're letting a whole bunch of people who are riding above us basically implement technologies and basically rip away the future that, you know, people kind of hoped would happen to them. You know, a lot of people nowadays that I talk to are excited if they even have enough to eat every fucking month.
Thank you. There's so much more issues going on in the world that we could be solving besides trying to make parents parent their kids, or you parenting their kids for them. Like, there's so much more that could be going on. Parents got enough to worry about.
It actually is just fucking that bad. I'm not even joking. Like, go outside, talk to people, just talk with anybody who's living the day-to-day life, and they'll tell you what their concerns are. Their concerns are literally if they can eat today, eat this month, if they can pay their fucking rent and call it a day. And, you know, ultimately these politicians are more concerned with, again, making sure that we're constantly cattled up, making sure that, you know, our shit is constantly monitored, we're constantly being surveilled, rather than make our lives better in any meaningful capacity. And I think ultimately speaking, like, this application, yes, it did end up getting hacked. The hack wasn't really as insane as a lot of the headlines made it out to be. But the thing is, I think it's a precursor to something much larger. I think that, applications like this invoke a
I agree.
huge attack surface of being breached, where eventually down the road, it might not be uncommon that at some point in the EU, and remember, if this is happening in a place like the EU, it easily can happen just as fast in the United States. You might think that you're safe and free and patriot bound, but remember, the US is federally talking about OS level age verification. All this
Right.
stuff is converging. And at the end of the day, look, we have to be able to resist and just fucking stop this nonsense, okay? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself the question, is it really about the children, or is it just about monitoring what the fuck we're doing on a day-to-day
It's about
fucking
control.
basis? And I think ultimately that's where a lot of these
Control.
laws kind of want us to go to. It's just about monitoring where you're going to, what you're accessing, and what you're able to look on the internet. As long as Big Brother fucking approves of you looking on the internet, right? That's
They
where
don't
we're
approve
kind of
though.
headed.
They want us to be dumbed
But
down.
ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's been a wild day indeed. A lot of shit to talk about, actually. Apparently, that David guy that we were talking about earlier, he's been arrested. And the reason I haven't talked about it yet is because I'm still waiting right now on what the actual, on what I think the DA has to do in Los Angeles. So wild stuff in that regard. Totally outside the age verification story.
I have no clue
But
about this
obviously,
David guy.
it's fucking huge here. We had a shoe company pivot to AI, fucking blow up
Right.
400%. Crazy stuff to see, man. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like it. I am out.
Yeah, all that stuff. He says, "Oh damn it, I don't know why." I agree 100%. We need to do something about it, but they think that one answer solutions are the answer to all the problems. If they're getting onto a website they're not supposed to, let's put an H block. Oh, yeah, there goes a VPN. Well, how do we stop the VPN? Double VPNs. Traffic. How do we stop people from sharing it to each other? Like, the kids are going to get a hold of what they're not supposed to regardless. It's more than that. It's about the control. Anyways.